Well, hello there to my she's, gays, and theys. Welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be doing something a little different today and highly anticipated. We are going to be ranking the DISVENTURE Camp All-Stars cast as of episode 9. I'm doing this as a subscriber special actually. I recently hit 2,500 subscribers and I just want to take a second to say thank you so much. Thank you. I know that doesn't sound like a big number. Like 2,500 subscribers, that's like nothing in this day and age of the internet. But to me, that number means so much to me. Like, picture 2,500 people in a stadium with you, and they all know who you are, and they all watch your videos. That's crazy to me. Like, that's so overwhelming. So, I know it doesn't seem like a lot, but to me, this means everything. So, I thank you guys so much. I make these videos solely for fun. I don't make money off of these videos. I'm solely doing it for fun and for support from you guys. So I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. So I said I wasn't going to rank the All-Stars cast until it was over, but because you guys wanted it and because you guys did this, this is for you guys. Here you go. I'm not going to go totally super in depth in this video about every single character. Each character is probably going to get like a few minutes. Like, that's it. Because the season's not over yet. And there could still be changes and new things happen with them. So I'm just going to give my brief overview of all these characters and how I feel about them as of episode 9. Hopefully by now my episode 9 reaction is out. So if you want to go watch that, just so you have a little benchmark, that would be awesome. If you guys like this type of content and want to see more of it from me, make sure to hit that like button and maybe consider subscribing. Maybe we can get to 3,000, but no pressure. I'm not going to force you. I'm not going to force you if you don't want to. But yeah. Without further ado, let's get into the ranking. I think it's pretty obvious why Yule is at the bottom of the list, and will probably continue to stay there until All-Stars is over. His behavior towards Gret is unacceptable on so many levels. I had a lot of hope for this relationship when the season started, thinking it was going to be similar to a duo like Team Rocket from Pokemon. Dastardly evil, yet entertaining, with silly, overly mushy quips sprinkled in. Instead, what we've been getting is the tragic story of Gret taking bullet after bullet from this weasel of a man. Now, I can get behind the argument that Yule was designed this way, he's supposed to be unlikable, we're supposed to hate him. Yes, I completely see that. And I'm not discounting how absolutely hilarious this man is. Marks, Yule's English voice actor, does an incredible job voicing him, and I have nothing but respect for him. He makes Yule fun to hate. But that doesn't change the fact that I hate this man, and I will continue to do so for every bad thing he has put Gret through. My favorite aspect of Yule is watching Rhea and Alec bully the shit out of him. That is the only reason he should stay in the game, in my opinion. Watching him get served up karma constantly is like therapy, honestly. I'd also like to highlight his dynamic with Emily, which is very intriguing as well. Sure, he's not any better to her, or anyone for that matter, but I'm sure the Yule stands are fishing for me to say something positive about him. If anything, Yule would be way better if he wasn't dating Gret. If he wasn't giving hell to her every 5 seconds, he'd be so much higher because he's so fucking funny when he's not interacting with Gret. He is an agent of chaos, as I expected, just a very shitty, ill-behaved one who doesn't deserve Gret. I've made my opinion on Jake pretty clear, but for those of you who are new here, yeah, I don't like him, especially not here in All-Stars. He was tolerable for the most part in Season 1, but once All-Stars started, my patience for him ran painfully thin. I will give credit where credit is due, though. Jake is one of the better written characters in DISVENTURE Camp, and I thoroughly acknowledge that he's been through a lot and has grown because of it. He has been striving to become better in these latest episodes, and honestly, good for him. That's all I can hope for with him at this point. I don't think it's necessarily Jake himself that I have a problem with. Although I will scream to the rooftops about how much of a brat he is sometimes. Rather, I think it's how he handles things that grinds my gears. My friend Korza and I have little debates on this from time to time since they really like Jake and can justify his decisions, which again, I respect. One of the bigger points made is that Jake tried to communicate with Tom multiple times before episode 7, to which I say, where? He tried once in episode 2, and then didn't even bother trying again until episode 7. He tried once! Sure, he called Tom a lot in the off-season, but in terms of speaking face-to-face in the game, once. Another big problem I have is when Jake is upset about something, he tends to take it out on the people around him, like Aiden, Allie, and Ashley. Whoa, a lot of A's there. He doesn't have a proper way of dealing with hardships yet, which it seems like he started working on in episode 9, which is great! That's one of the biggest problems I had with him, and if it goes well, I expect Jake to move up a few spots. Hell, he's already made progress, because he's not Yule, so that already saved him from the bottom. Good job, Jake, you're learning. As the first eliminated contestant on All Stars, there's not really a whole lot I can say about James. If we were talking about Season 2, there would be plenty to say. But for this ranking, I will not be taking past seasons into account all that much. This is mostly based on their behavior in All Stars. In my final ranking, I will go fully in depth about every character, both seasons included. But for now, James served his purpose well, and I enjoyed the time we had with him. Aiden has certainly changed this man for the better, and I would love to hang out with him. James had great morale for his team, but always knew when to stand his ground. Of course, I'm referring to his debacle with Jake, which he handled perfectly. I loved seeing his loyalty and trust in Aiden, which as the season has progressed, has been justified time and time again from Aiden's behavior. I love James and Aiden a lot as a couple, with James being a big driving force in that. Not that I don't like Aiden, of course, but a lot of the charm comes from James's outwardly extroverted personality and overall good vibes. James was a very predictable first boot, but that's not to say that he was a bad first boot. He had his moment to shine, so there wasn't much that the writers could do with him after making him a millionaire. He saw, he came, he conquered. What more could he need? I've said this multiple times, but I don't really care much for the Season 2 cast in general. Season 1's cast stole my heart with its diverse, colorful array of characters, whereas in Season 2, all the characters just kinda blended together for me. But in terms of All-Stars, I think all the additions made from that cast made sense. That still doesn't change the fact that I usually prefer characters from Season 1, hence why someone like Hunter is lower on the list. I didn't have any problems necessarily with Hunter, well, except for one. It wasn't his relationship with Allie. I think that both sides of that relationship have their issues and were explained quite nicely. Hunter's departure made a lot of sense, and I'm very happy to see that Hunter and Allie didn't go down burning in flames. Hunter clearly does care for Allie, despite all the pain they put each other through, which is completely normal. It is easy to tell that Hunter always wanted the best for her, and sympathized with her struggle against online haters. He wanted her to see that what matters is what the people who care about her think, not just some strangers on the internet. Sure, that motive wasn't flawlessly executed, but Hunter had good intentions nonetheless. No, what my problem with Hunter was his constant bullying of Fiore. I may be biased, but I genuinely do not understand what his deal was with her. Yes, Fiore is a terrible person and has done terrible things. I am not undermining that. But at the end of the day, Fiore is still just 8 years old, and taking out your frustrations with poor team performance on a child is the furthest thing from a good look on Hunter. Not to mention that Fiore wasn't causing much discourse on her team while she was on it. She was just existing most of the time. Sure, there were moments where Fiore's lack of strength hindered her team, like in episodes 2 and 5. However, with every little mishap that team had, Hunter's immediate excuse was to blame Fiore, which irked me a lot. They had their fun bickering moments, but for the most part, Hunter's behavior with Fiore turned into a pet peeve real fast, and diminished a lot of the good his character had going for him. Oh, Lake, sweetheart, we were all rooting for you! Lake's elimination continues to be one of the biggest shocks in the season so far, only falling second to Tess's elimination in episode 9. Lake was a character I saw so much support for, and could genuinely see as a finalist when the season began. However, looking back on all of it now, Lake's elimination does make sense for her character in general. She had some of the best development in Season 2, so she didn't really have a whole lot she could do in All Stars. Perhaps a lot of us were blinded by our love for her as a person to recognize that right away. That's not to say Lake's time in All Stars was bad, far from it. Lake is such a warm presence and was very supportive of her team. She played her heart out in the 3 episodes she was in, and had Ellie not betrayed the Girls Alliance outright, she probably would have continued to impress. Her friendships with Aiden and Tess were wholesome to see, and I appreciated Lake's kindness while she was here. I wish I had more to say about her, and she was very much robbed of screen time, but I'll always have a soft spot in my heart for Lake, as I see a lot of myself in her. I wanted to preface this by giving a special shout out to Weister, the English voice actor for Aiden, who does watch my videos. Vi, bud, I respect the hell out of you, but Aiden has to be down here, okay? Please don't hate me. As of episode 9, I truly think that Aiden has overstayed his welcome as a character. I understand that he is a fan favorite in the DISVENTURE camp community, but in terms of his role in All Stars, dare I say, Aiden, to me, is kinda just a plot device. Aiden stans, please hear me out. Aiden has some amazing development in season 2, and this kind of falls into the same vein as James and Lake. Aiden's character is very well-rounded, and without James, I understand there wasn't much that Aiden could do this season. But shoving him into the Tom and Jake fiasco was not the move. Aiden is very loyal to James, so the fact that Jake would have any doubt in that relationship is crazy to me. Aiden had his happy ending and truly does not deserve the treatment he's gotten this season. He lost his boyfriend and best friend back to back, and now that Tess is out too, he is quickly losing a lot of his support characters. Tom and Aiden's friendship is very sweet and I do enjoy it, but turning it into some weird love triangle with Jake has been way more trouble than it's worth. Aiden hasn't been doing much of anything aside from unintentionally contributing to that mess and shit-talking Jake. And although we love to shit-talk Jake in this house, some characters deserve the screen time over Aiden at this point. I don't think he'll have much more to go considering all this, and I was certain he would have been cut in episode 9, but alas. That's not to say I don't like Aiden, I do. He's very mature and likable, and he has good dynamics with his team. It's just the role he's playing this season isn't my favorite, and he deserves to be put out of his misery and reunited with his boyfriend. If there is anything DISVENTURE Camp has taught me, it's to expect the unexpected from characters like Miriam. Now don't get it twisted, I loved Miriam in season 1, and I am not hating on our grandmother. She is queen, she is slay. However, she was one of the more predictable early boots. Even then, she still lasted 2 more episodes than I thought she would, and did not go down without a fight. She has continued to stay plot relevant because of the note she gave to Connor about the Villains Alliance, which I have mixed feelings about. On one hand, I am glad she went out swinging, but at the same time, I am heavily biased towards the villains, and I'm honestly banking that one of them wins the season. Hold on. Oh, sorry, I'll have to cut that out. I always find it so frustrating every time a piece of media doesn't let villains win just because they're villains. This happened to Julia in the Total Drama reboot. Twice. These antagonistic characters work their asses off to win, even if it means doing some underhanded things. But because of those few little not-so-nice moves, their hard work goes to waste because good guys always win. It's frustrating, especially when you know that the antagonists aren't necessarily bad people and do deserve to win to some degree. I will touch more on this later. Anyways, back to Miriam. I believe if she ended up on any other team, she would have made it a lot farther. We all know Miriam is a dark horse and should not be underestimated, and that is still true despite her early leave. Her short-lived alliance with Alec and Fiore was a fun group I didn't expect to enjoy as much as I did, and her interactions with the rest of her team were also very fun. I do think the writers could have played more into Miriam's weaknesses though, like her health getting in the way of her abilities. I was almost hoping they would pay homage to the beta season and have Miriam be forced to come back to the show despite already winning and not wanting to be there. That would have been really funny. But I did appreciate Miriam's time on the show, and I'm glad her actions are still having effects on the overall story. As I'm writing this script, episode 9 will come out for the public soon, and it will be out once this video goes live, as well as my reaction to it. So, Tess fans, how we doing? You doing okay? God, I'm so sorry. I was not expecting Tess to leave before the merge. That elimination was a doozy. Tess was definitely someone I saw making it to the merge and maybe even becoming a finalist. But as fate would have it, support characters are doomed from the start. Tess's time on the show was a little bit underutilized in my opinion, but she was still another very warm presence to have. Again, Tess had very good development in season 2 and is one of the characters I more or less favored in that season. However, I was hoping we'd be able to see more of her on her own after realizing she wouldn't be on a team with Hunter and Allie. Instead, she resorted to being an occasional support for Aiden, Allie, and Gabby, which isn't a bad thing per se. She's clearly found peace in her life, and I'm happy to see her happy. She took her elimination like a champ, too, and I'm glad she didn't feed into Gabby's villainous move and even forgave her for it. She served as a reminder that at the end of the day, Disventure Camp is just a game, and not life or death. She took Ellie out of the game not to get ahead, but for Ellie's well-being, which I find incredibly selfless and honorable, even if Gabby doesn't see it that way. She came here to be a supporting character for her team and her best friends, and she made for a damn good one. If the Disventure Camp fandom doesn't already hate me, allow me to change that. Ashley, as great as she is a supporting character, through and through. And she is a supporting character that doesn't need to be a finalist. She, in my opinion, doesn't have enough going for her on her own to justify making it to the finale. She and Allie's friendship is incredibly sweet, as well as her and Jake's. To an extent, I appreciate that she is trying her best to help Jake be better and cope through this mess that is him and Tom. However, there are moments where I see Ashley enabling his poor behavior, at least in the beginning. She is starting to be more firm with him as of episode 7, which is great and exactly what Jake needs. But I have a bad feeling that that's going to backfire. However, my biggest problem with Ashley is the fact that she never interacts with anyone other than the people on her team. Ever. Interact with other people, Ashley! I'm begging you! Anyone else, I don't care who! This is exactly the trap she fell into during season 1, and it completely wrecked her when it actually mattered. Don't do it again, Ashley, please! Yes, I get it. In a game like this, your team takes priority. Absolutely. But just have a conversation with someone else on another team. Her being this motherly figure to Jake and Allie will get stale if it goes on too long. That's why I would love for Ashley to at least make the merge, just so she can have the opportunity to interact outside of those two. She bounces off of other characters so nicely, and I just want to see more variants of that. Let me clarify that this is not Ashley slander, not in the slightest. She made the top 10, of course I like her. She's fun, her dialogue is fun, and she's very rootable for a lot of people. Her backstory in episode 4 was beautifully delivered by Chris Dolly, who also watches me apparently. I just learned that recently. Hi, I'm a big fan. She has some really strong character moments that could earn her a spot in the finale, but at the end of the day, similar to Tess, her main purpose is to support others. Which is fine, just not finalist material. But that's just me. Maybe she'll make me eat my words. Again. Now here's a pleasant surprise for my past self. If you had told me that Allie would make my top 10 at this point, I wouldn't have believed you. At the beginning of the season, Allie was quick to get on my nerves for ragging on Hunter and being just overall bitchy. But once you start to take a deeper look into her mindset and what she's been going through as a content creator, I suddenly realize how relatable and, dare I say, easy to root for she is. She's one of the few people this season who looked back on her past mistakes and is actively trying to correct them, which I respect greatly. The emotional distance between her and Hunter is especially fascinating to me, and a topic that's not often explored in media. That slow falling out of love, and not missing Hunter when he's gone, even though it feels like she should. As a content creator, I completely understand where her way of thinking comes from. It's easy to say that internet haters are simply that. Haters with nothing better to do, and you shouldn't let negative comments bother you. But to actually mean that all the time is nearly impossible for anyone to do. People can be mean, and you're allowed to feel hurt about it. Allie has found herself in a position of thinking that if people on the internet don't like her because of how she played last season, then that means she has to play better in order to be liked by them. And this in turn has caused her to push away Hunter and Tess emotionally. Meanwhile, they're both trying to make her realize that the people who truly love her don't care about her online reputation, and that she shouldn't take mindlessly harsh comments to heart. The writers are setting up Allie to have a very interesting storyline, one where it's very easy to relate and root for her. Sure, her little tussles with Jake are annoying, but I blame him more often for those than Allie. Overall, I have very high hopes for Allie later on in the season. Her friendship with Ashley is cute, she's got cheesy gaming one-liners that are fun to hear, and she's got a compelling story without Hunter, much to my surprise. I'm looking forward to see where they take Allie from here. Oh, how the mighty have fallen, am I right? Ellie was one of my favorite characters in Season 1, but in terms of her performance in All-Stars, it certainly was not as interesting or morally gray. I did appreciate Ellie's consistent messing with the dreaded love triangle, but I wouldn't necessarily call any of those incidents strategic, and more just for shits and giggles. Which they achieved, don't get me wrong. But I definitely think Ellie was wasted potential for this season. With her in the Villains Alliance, she could have had the power to really stir up some trouble, but she stuck with messing with Jake exclusively. Back in Season 1, Ellie wasn't necessarily seen as a villain, more like a vigilante, doing whatever she needed to get ahead. And a huge difference between her then and now is that she actually felt bad about doing underhanded things. Ellie was easy to root for in Season 1 because she had empathy for others besides Gabby, and didn't enjoy going behind their backs. But here, Ellie feels so much more hollow, even with Gabby. Ellie in All-Stars is bitter and vengeful of her placement in Season 1, which, in my opinion, isn't as fun as her being morally gray. Sure, she and Gabby were adorable while they lasted, but at the same time, their relationship was also seen to have some strain due to Ellie's money-hungry tendencies. This was shown right off the bat in Episode 3 with Ellie's sudden betrayal of Lake and the Girls Alliance, which, mind you, was her idea. I think Ellie jumped the shark on that, honestly. She really screwed herself over by creating too many enemies within her team too quickly. It was inevitable that the next time Cyan lost, they would all immediately target Ellie for her previous actions. Season 1 Ellie was more keen on staying on the down low and not drawing too much attention to herself unless she needed to, which clearly worked out better for her. But anyway, I'm rambling. Back to the girlfriends. I would have loved to see more of that tension between her and Gabby, as the prospect of losing Gabby to Ellie's own greed would have made for some great character development. As cute as her elimination scene was, Ellie still left with warning Gabby not to trust her teammates instead of comforting her crying girlfriend. Do I still like Ellie? Yeah, I do, because I have villain bias, but she was much better in Season 1, which is a shame. Oh look! The other half of the Tom-Jake fiasco. And evidently, the better half of it. Now, I'm not going to sit here and be a Tom apologist because he is absolutely not innocent in all this. I've made this comparison before, but Tom and Jake are the literal definition of fight or flight in terms of dealing with this whole situation. On one hand, Jake frequently gets upset and angry, lashing out on people around him. Meanwhile, Tom lies and runs away from even discussing it. I understand the idea of not wanting to get hurt again, and Jake being the first person Tom ever felt comfortable showing his scars to. I can totally understand Tom's hurt for feeling betrayed after the events of Season 1, but it's not going to get any better if he keeps avoiding it. He was great about this during the Season 1 finale, which makes his behavior here even more confusing. The more the season goes on and the farther he runs away from the problem, the more frustrating and drawn out the plot gets. All it takes to settle this once and for all is one honest, vulnerable conversation. It's not that hard, lest we forget that Tom is 30. Sure, I get it's scary to confront your feelings head on like that, but that's so much better than bottling all this up and lying about it. But if I'm so mad at Tom for how he's acting in this, why is he so much higher than Jake, you ask? Because he's funny. Yeah, I know, grill me. Yes, Tom's behavior sucks, but at least he's still enjoyable to watch despite all that. His stupidity and cute himbo one-liners make up for the fact that he's a terrible communicator. Jake doesn't have the blessing of comedy to help me still like him, so that's why he's at the bottom and Tom isn't. Is that a stupid reason? Yeah, probably, but it's my list, so I can justify it however I please. If you hate Tom, cool. If you love Tom, that's also cool. Me personally, he's just a silly, goofy idiot who needs to grow a pair and talk things out like the big-boobed boy he is. This placement has been super fickle the last few episodes, so if it doesn't stay the same in the final ranking at the end of the season, don't be surprised. But Rhea has truly been the most back and forth I have ever been on a character. Up until episode 6, Rhea to me was just an annoying, stuck-up little brat who lost basically all the character development she got in season 2. But in these last few episodes, Rhea has actually become one of the most fun characters to watch. And that's not necessarily because she's getting character development either. She's just gotten funnier and done less awful things. Rhea is very complex in her personality, despite it not looking like that on the surface. She has this fascinating complex of needing to be high and mighty, fearing the prospect of being vulnerable like she once was. That's why her pushing Connor away in episode 3 stung so hard, because it does make a lot of sense in her mind. But at the same time, that man would have done anything for you. Come on! To push away the one person theoretically still on your side is crazy. But once Connor was gone, it was as if she stopped having any bonds holding her back from just shining on her own. She meshes so good with the rest of the yellow team. She and Alec have a fun partnership. Her rivalries with Yul and Aiden never get old, and we gotta admit, she's a girl's girl. The scene between her and Gret in episode 9 could single-handedly save Rhea from the bottom half of the list as long as she doesn't fuck anything up. I wouldn't have worded it as harshly as she did, but I respect the tough love because Gret needed to hear it. And to be so real, Rhea does pretty well in challenges overall. No, we're not going to talk about episode 6, that one doesn't count. I just wonder where Rhea will place, because I don't see her leaving anytime soon, but I also don't see her making it too far since she was the runner-up of season 2. I like Rhea though, she's cool. She bounces off of others super well. I'm content with how she's been this season, but there's definitely room to do even more with her, which I hope to see. If you had told me before the season started that Connor was going to be in my top 5, I would have scream laughed in your face like Jenna Marbles. When the cast was first revealed, I was so disappointed to see Connor take the spot that I thought clearly belonged to Rosa. The bar was so low for him, you have no idea. But Connor, my man, did the fucking impossible and won me over so fast. Why, you ask? Because Alec Connor, bitches! That's why! The dynamic between Connor and Alec was an absolute delight to watch, and did wonders for both of their characters in the first half of episodes. Connor's outward kindness meshed with Alec's more subtle care brought out some of the best in both of them. Connor's heart is so big, oh my god. Yeah, his stuff with Rhea sucked, and I wish he didn't dwell on her as much as he did, but thankfully Alec was there to talk him out of it. A big debate in the DISVENTURE camp sphere is whether or not Connor's development over the 6 episodes he competed in was rushed. Korza and I have had our fair share of scuffles about it. To me, I think Connor's development was very well handled, and I'm incredibly proud of him for standing up for himself and finally moving on to bigger and better things. He already had a successful business prior to coming to the show, and never needed Rhea, and it takes some serious guts to come to terms with that. I really hope that out of all the eliminated contestants, he's the one to make the return. Not necessarily to continue his story, but to provide closure to Rhea's and maybe even Alec's. Connor being the one to distribute Miriam's letter to the other teams really threw a wrench into their bond, and it makes me sad. But despite all that, Connor still liked Alec for who he was, and could see the good in him. I really hope Alec doesn't let that grudge make him forget that. I need these two to stay friends. Or more, that would be cool too. For real though, I really didn't expect to love Connor as much as I did, and I am very pleasantly surprised. Oh, my hopes are so high for you, baby girl! With the latest episode of All Stars, the bar has been set up into the clouds for Gabby. I love this evil side of her. It was one of the funnest aspects of her in season 1, and I am so thrilled to see it back. I do also love wholesome Gabby, don't get it twisted, but this show needed an agent of chaos like her. I am so looking forward to seeing what kind of sick shit Gabby's gonna get into now. I love this self-sabotaging energy. I also love how divisive her motives are. You can absolutely see why Gabby has crossed over to the dark side, but you can also see how her mind isn't in the right place and naively defending Ellie despite her poor behavior. The grudge she has for her team makes total sense, but you can also feel bad for them because they had good intentions. It's so fascinating, I really like it. I wish I had more to say about Gabby other than her villainous shift, but unfortunately, this is really the most she's done all season. I think every little thing she has taken part in has led up to this moment. She was a bit ostracized on the Cyan team from time to time and only wanted everyone to work together civilly. Instead, what she got was Tom and Ellie's constant bickering, Ellie destroying any semblance of an alliance on her team, getting battered by majority while trying to not have Tom cook squirrels, and then having her team vote out Ellie, the one person that didn't totally isolate her. And even then, Ellie was more consumed by the game to even pay that much attention to Gabby. This was a villain origin story waiting to happen. I cannot wait to see her interact more with the yellow team, specifically Gret. They were not on good terms in season 1, so to see them sort of rekindle a real friendship is all I can hope for now. I feel like her and Rhea will have a fun back and forth, her and Alec could be really interesting, and there's never enough people to shit on Yul, right? Overall, after episode 9, Gabby could potentially be one of the most exciting to watch. Or this could all totally backfire on her and she'll be gone next episode. We'll see how poorly this one ages. I know she doesn't want to hear this, but it must be said. Gret, you deserve better! I'm gonna be so real with you guys. Gret is mostly this high on the list out of sheer pity. I feel so bad for the shit she has gone through with Yul. It breaks my heart. Like I said, I had such high hopes for this relationship, and it is so disappointing to see Gret putting up with this loser. She is so much better than that, and she just can't come to terms with it. Thankfully, it does look like Rhea and Alec are stepping in to wake her up a little, and hopefully that starts to resonate with Gret. Gret is one of the most well-rounded characters of season 1, and was so fun to hate it was delightful. Whereas here, I want her to go back to that. She is a baddie who shouldn't be putting up with anyone's shit. She came to terms with who she was in season 1, realizing she didn't need the approval of her family to feel confident. I need her to apply that to Yul. I understand that she'd put up that harsh wall to protect herself and forget about her own insecurities. I totally get that and can almost relate to that. I understand what it's like to have trust issues and feel like you're not worthy to open up to people. I am not blaming Gret for any of the abuse Yul has put her through. She doesn't deserve a single ounce of it. It's so easy to say, oh, Gret, just leave his ass. But the reality is, when you're so dependent on someone, it's difficult to get out, no matter how toxic it is. Gret has to realize that there needs to be a line between staying in someone's good graces no matter what, and needing to be treated with respect no matter what. You can tell that she genuinely loves Yul and did see something good in him. But the good has to outweigh the bad, and I'm sure it doesn't right now. Gret's story could end in one of two ways. Either she puts her foot down and stands up to Yul, breaking things off with him for good with a newfound confidence in herself, or Yul is going to break up with her and leave her completely miserable. Please don't break her, Jobber! I am begging you! Gret is going to get hurt either way, but the deciding factor of whether or not she's going to stay in my top 3 is how she handles it. I love her so much, and I need her to know that she is capable of picking herself back up. She's done it before. She has easily been one of the most rootable characters of the season, and honestly, I'd love to see her in the finale. You can tell that she's cleaned up her act from season 1 and wants to be a better person, but still has hints of that glorious mischief she had 2 years ago. I want to see more of Gret being a bad bitch, and I hope Rhea and Alec can help her get there again, because I really love her interactions with them. Gret, baby, I promise you're gonna be okay. Just remember how fucking cool you are, okay? You can do it! Are you guys ready for the most predictable top 2 ever? Because if you expect me to change these at any point, clearly you're new here and have never conversed with me. Now let me know if this is a hot take or not, because I definitely think it is. I almost like Fiore more in All-Stars than in Season 1. Am I wrong? I'm probably wrong, but hear me out. Fiore is an absolutely iconic being, and every time this little demon child was on screen, the happiness was fucking contagious. She really got the total drama action Heather treatment because nobody was putting up with her shit in this season, and it made for some funny but also kind of sad exchanges. I'm not excusing Fiore's shitty behavior, not by any means. She was downright brutal in Season 1, and some of the things she did warrant jail time. But here in All-Stars, she played much more passively and actually seemed to care about her team to some degree. I was almost hoping we'd be on track for a bit of a redemption arc with her. I would have loved that. But ultimately, there's no universe where Fiore isn't going to be a demon child. And honestly, she's wonderful just the way she is. She had the perfect blend of sassy, out-of-pocket one-liners, vulnerable moments that showed a bit of her humanity, and the pure adorableness of an 8-year-old. Can I also just mention how much more mature she was this season? How dare she grow up on me like that? Like, that's so rude. Jake and Allie could never. It even felt like she took a lot after Alec, despite the two of them not interacting all that much. I do find that aspect a little disappointing, but I'm honestly not as upset about it as I thought I'd be. Sure, they definitely need closure, and I hope we get it. But to be so real, Fiore carried herself fine without him, and vice versa. I do think she was cut way too soon though. Yeah, she dodged it twice, but still, I really wanted her to make the merge and then immediately get cut afterward. Without Fiore, I lost almost all interest in the Magenta team, as I figured I would. And I wish that Fiore had done more with the Villains Alliance. Like, I wish there had been a conflict of interest between her and Rhea after episode 5, and Fiore threatened to leave the Alliance because Rhea wasn't helping her. Instead, Fiore didn't really do anything with them, which sucks cause she is a master strategist and could have rained hell on these bitches. But again, Fiore was very enjoyable by herself, which I didn't expect to say considering that I am the CEO of father-daughter Alec and Fiore. Fiore just has this entertainment value that is unlike any contestant in DISVENTURE camp. Whether she's messing with people or getting battered by the world, she is just so fucking funny and I love her like she was my own kid. Fiore fascinates me, and I might even make a whole video essay just on her. This is probably wishful thinking, but I really want her to be the one to return, but it's probably gonna be Connor. But I can dream, right? I just miss her. She's so much fun. Special shout out to Aubrey Lima for bringing Fiore to life. She also watches me, which is insane to me. Hi, Aubrey. I love you. Long story short, Fiore supremacy. She is best girl by far. I love the she. Now she's gays and theys. Raise your hand if you thought Alec was going to place anywhere other than number 1. Yep, that's what I thought. He doesn't belong anywhere else. Alec is my favorite DISVENTURE camp character. And if you're shocked by this, hi, welcome to my channel. Where do I even begin with Alec, honestly? He is one of the most complex characters in the entire show, and his whole story fascinates me like no other. My favorite aspect of Alec is how much we know and also how little we know about him. He's so vague, but gives us just enough pieces of a story to work with to have my mind racing. He is also a very morally gray character like Ellie, but in my opinion, his morally grayness is done a lot better. We have seen sweet sides of him with Connor, Fiore, Gret, and Ellie. You can tell in some aspects that Alec means very well and does have a heart for people. However, we have also seen the not so nice sides of Alec in terms of his home life and how he neglects his own son, which I have a bone to pick with him about this. So riddle me this, pretty boy. Why do you say that you didn't want your son and consistently treat him like shit, yet in the same breath, treat Fiore better than her own parents ever could, granted that bar is stupid low, but you get it, and also show hints of actually caring about your son. Like, why do you have his drawing in one of your books, Alec? Explain that. Make it make sense. Also, please don't take this as me excusing his poor parenting. Oh God, no. He is a terrible father, and I am more than willing to admit where Alec is wrong. But just from this alone, I have demonstrated why I love Alec so much. These gaps that he leaves in his story open him up to so many different pathways. There are a multitude of ways his story can end up, and I'm so looking forward to see if it even has a conclusion. Aside from Alec's origin story, he is also debatably one of the smartest competitors and really does have leader energy on his team, and bounces off of all of them super well. Again, him and Rhea are a super fun duo. Him and Connor were adorable. Him standing up for Gret was so amazing to see from him. I, again, could do a whole video essay on Alec, and I probably will once All Stars is over. There's so much I can say about him, but one thing specifically in All Stars that I love is how he's involved with every team to some degree. He, like Allie, learned from his past mistakes and started interacting with other people besides Fiore. He meddled with Jake's psyche and is the one to get that whole love triangle mess rolling, lest we forget. He's worked with Ellie briefly, and now he has Gabby in his Villains Alliance. Just the act of creating the Villains Alliance was brilliant on his part. Now if only someone didn't rat it out. Miriam. I also just think that Alec is very deserving of a finalist position. He's worked really hard, he isn't playing for any other ulterior motive, and he probably needs the money for child support. I honestly have my doubts about him actually winning, but if he isn't at least in the top 3, I'm gonna be so disappointed. He's another character that doesn't necessarily give off villain energy, more like a vigilante as well. He's not going out of his way to hurt people. He's just doing what he needs to in order to get ahead. It's what you do in a game like this. I just love the way Alec is playing overall, and I love the tidbits of his story that we're getting from him. It's been a long time since I've hyperfixated on a character like this. I have truly fallen into the Alec trenches, and I do not plan to come out anytime soon. He is the type of character that I am a total sucker for. Antagonistic to a degree, brooding, smart, cunning, handsome as fuck. No, you know what? Let me be a simp, okay? He is so fucking fine. And for what? Divorce me next, king. I also want to give the biggest shout out to Rydix, Alec's English voice actor. Your work is phenomenal, and I have endless respect for you. Thank you for voicing my favorite character so perfectly. Alec, to me, is the perfect balance of playing strategically with your logic and playing based on emotions. That was a huge theme I took away from Season 1, and I still feel the same here. Alec will forever be my favorite Disventure Camp character, and I absolutely adore him with my entire heart. I love the he very much, and I am a ride or die for the he. And with that, we have reached the end of the video. That is my All-Stars rank as of episode 9. Oh my god. I kind of wrote that like as I was recording it, so I hope it didn't sound like too all over the place. Feel free to critique me in the comments about how those scripts went. I tried my best. But for my final All-Stars ranking, I will be going more in depth about every character in both of the seasons that they were in. So it'll be way more in-depth, way longer, and just more detailed. So look forward to that, but this is how I stand right now. Before I end the video, I want to, first of all, thank you guys so much for 2,500 subscribers again. This video exists because of you, so I am so grateful to have you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for caring about what I put out. Thank you for liking my content. I really appreciate it. It means everything to me, really. And if you guys can get me to 3,000 subscribers, no pressure, I'm not going to force you, of course, but once we get there, I may or may not have a very special announcement for you guys. So if you want to hear it and you haven't already, make sure you click that subscribe button if you want the super fun announcement, because God knows I want to give it. I'm so excited to talk about it. But we need to get there first, so let's get there first. I also want to give my usual thank yous and shout outs and all my love in the world to Odd Nation Cartoons, as always, because they have created such an amazing season of Disventure Camp so far, and I cannot wait to see more. We're almost at the halfway point, which is like the craziest thing in the world to me. Like, that is so nuts. Anybody on the team who watches my videos also, thank you so much. Like, you have no idea how much that means to me. Knowing that you guys know that I exist is like the craziest thing to me, and just so inspiring, and just makes me want to create more. You guys inspire me every day. So anybody on the Disventure Camp team in general, also voice actors, writers, animators, proofreaders, storyboard artists, Jobbert themselves, thank you so much for everything that you do. I really appreciate you guys. You guys have created something absolutely amazing, and you guys should be really proud. And if you want to support Disventure Camp All-Stars directly, you can head over to the Odd Nation Cartoons Patreon, where you can subscribe and get early episode access, as well as other fun perks like backgrounds and soundtracks and assets from the show. It's a really fun time. And you can also get access to the Odd Nation Cartoons Patreon Discord channels, where I frequently reside. Anybody who interacts with me in that server, hello, hi friends, hello. It is so fun talking to you guys. You guys are so cool, and thank you for making me feel so welcome. I really appreciate y'all. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate you sticking it all the way to the end of the video. I'm sure this one was a long one. And until next time, I will see you guys later. Bye-bye!